What's up, guys? So recently I've seen a bunch of advertisements on a bunch of different tech channels for Redux Gaming PCs, and this has really signaled a shift away from NZXT BLD towards this newer Redux service. And Redux is actually a sort of subsidiary, smaller brand of Digital Storm that is mainly targeting sort of the entry-level and middle of the road gaming PCs. And they give you a couple different options very similar to NZXT BLD to either purchase one of their sort of pre-built computers or go ahead and customize your own build. So just jumping into Redux itself. So starting off with some of their best sellers, we can go ahead and take a look at their what they call good, better, and best variants of their PC. So if we view their good build, which comes in at $943, we see an i3-10100F 4-core 8-thread CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, a Hyper 212, a Cooler Master TD500, and Redux seems to be partnered with Cooler Master with all of their builds. So you're going to get a Cooler Master case, a Cooler Master cooler, and most likely a Cooler Master power supply. And continuing with the build, you get a B460 motherboard, Windows 10 Home, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, some fans, some RGB fans, an M.2 600 watt power supply, and of course a wireless card. And the sort of claim to fame for Redux is their $75 build fee. So they're pretty much charging you MSRP on all of the components and then just throwing on a $75 build fee. Now, of course, it may seem like this is a really good deal on your end, and it honestly is. But for the most part, Redux is, of course, buying all of these components in bulk, so they're not, of course, paying MSRP. So it's a little misleading thinking that they're, of course, paying the $868 for the component cost and then only charging you $75. But they're probably making a little bit more off of the sale than that pure $75. But that's honestly a pretty good deal. If we switch over to the AMD version of the build, we go to a Ryzen 5 3600, and it brings the total cost a little bit over $1,000. And we also get a ML240 liquid cooler from Cooler Master. Now, if we looked at a similar priced pre-built from NZXT BLD, you would most likely go with their Starter PC Series and probably either their Starter PC Plus or Starter PC Pro. I mean, at that $1,050 price point of the Redux sort of budget entry-level PC, we would most likely go with the Starter Pro for $1,099. And in that particular build, you're getting a i5-9400F, so you're getting a better CPU. You're also getting a Radeon 5700 XT and 16 gigs of RAM, as well as a 1 terabyte M.2. So you're honestly getting some better specs with the NZXT BLD Pro, but this PC has been out of stock now for a little while now, so it might be harder to get your hands on this particular build. So when it comes to the pre-built, in quotes, gaming PCs that both of these websites offer, you honestly might be better off with the NZXT Starter PCs if you can get your hands on them. I mean, if we went back and looked at the Starter PC Plus, you're getting the same CPU, i5-9400, and a 1660 Super with 16 gigs of RAM. So if we went back to the Intel version of that build, you're getting the i3, of course, instead of an i5, and you're getting a 1650 instead of a 1660 Super, and you're still paying a little bit more money for the build from Redux. Now, where the real sort of challenge comes in when you go with Redux versus NZXT is in their custom build segments. So if we take a look at Redux's customization options, we'll start off actually with this build, and I'm just going to hit customize, and you can go through and customize each of the components of the build. So we're going to switch the 1650 out for a 2060. I'm also going to switch the i3 out for an i5 10400, keep the 16 gigs of memory, keep the 512 or the 500 gig M.2, and we'll keep it with Windows 10. And now you can see we're at $1,255. I can apply my changes, and now you can see for $1,255, you're getting an i5 10400, 16 gigs of RAM still, a ML240 liquid cooler, the same case, same B460 motherboard, so not the greatest motherboard, but you're not going to overclock the i5 10400 anyways, and you get an RTX 2060. Honestly, a pretty good deal for $1,250. Now, if we go back over to NZXT BLD and we go to do a complete custom PC, I'm going to go ahead and hit start my PC. I'm going to click on, let's see, Valorant, Call of Duty, and Halo. I'm going to say pick my price, and we'll pick the $1,500 price point. So now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and configure this build, and we'll probably drop down that graphics card to something closer to a 2060 level. So going in, we'll keep it with the NZXT H510. It's a perfect case for this build. Cooling, we'll upgrade it to match that of the ML240. So we'll go with the Kraken X53 240 mil. The motherboard, we can keep it with the Z490. So you're getting a much better motherboard, but you're not going to overclock the chip anyways. So it's not going to add too much functionality to the build. The GPU, we can either keep it with the 3060 or drop down to a 1660. So we're going to do that to get the price a lot closer to what we were expecting from the Redux build. So now we're going with a lower end graphic card compared to the Redux, and we're still at a much higher price point. I'm also going to see for the CPU, we'll keep it with the i5-10400, match the CPU exactly. Power supply, a NZXT C650 Gold, so very similar from the power supply. RAM, 16 gigs RGB memory at 3600 megahertz. And from the storage perspective, let's drop the 1 terabyte down to 500 gigs to get it much closer to that Redux build. And now we're sitting with a build with pretty much the same specs all the way around compared to the Redux, with a lower end graphics card for $110 more. So this is where Redux really has some benefit over NZXT BLD, and that is in the real customization of the pre-built that you're going to buy from them. So you're definitely going to save money on the Redux side and get some better components when you're doing the fully custom build. But if you're okay getting one of the pre-builts from NZXT BLD, then you might be better off from them, mainly because you're going to get some really good spec hardware for a cheaper price. Being that they're able to put those computers together in bulk and not have to create one custom each time, you're saving on the build costs for the computer, and you're able to get some better components for a cheaper price compared to Redux. And just to sort of continue that trend of being cheaper on the Redux side of things, if you are going to customize it versus NZXT BLD, we'll step it up a notch to a much higher end system in terms of the graphics card and take a look at one of the 3060 Ti builds. Now, the card is currently unavailable from NZXT, but I was able to get a price for the system with the card in it. I just couldn't, of course, check out or buy it, but that system came in at around $1,700, but pretty much the same specs. Otherwise, still the i5-10400 CPU, the 240mm X53 cooler, so keeping everything else the same besides just increasing the graphics card to a 3060 Ti. Now, if we did the same build from Redux, so still the i5-10400, still the ML240, and just upgrading that graphics card to a 3060 Ti, the build comes in at around $1,450. So we're looking at a $250 price reduction, getting the exact same build as we were getting from NZXT BLD from Redux for a lot cheaper. So again, if you're looking for particular components that you might not be able to get from one of the pre-built systems, then I would definitely recommend taking a look at Redux to see if you can get a cheaper price for the exact same components that you could from NZXT BLD. Now, of course, it's going to depend on what you're looking for from your particular computer and also the aesthetics of the build. If you really like the NZXT parts and you want to go with their cooler and their case, then that is, of course, the option that you're going to have to go with, going with NZXT BLD. But if you like the Cooler Master components that you're getting from Redux, of course, that is also a really, really nice option. And you could save some money along the way going with one of their custom builds. Now, they both, of course, offer a 2-year warranty coming from the manufacturer, and you do have financing options as well going with either of these builds. Now, you will be experiencing a bit of a shipping delay if you do buy a Redux PC. Expected ship times are 3 to 4 weeks, and it's slightly less time if you're going to purchase from NZXT, about 2 weeks for one of their custom builds to ship out. So that's a bit of an overview of both of these companies, both of the things that they're offering. I hope you guys learned a little bit about both Redux and NZXT BLD, and maybe it helped make things a little bit clearer as to which one has a better offering or which one might be cheaper but still get you the same components. And if you have any questions or any comments about either one of these companies or building your own PC or other pre-builts, definitely leave those in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, definitely get subscribed to the channel and turn on post notifications so you can stay up to date on all my latest videos.